Welcome back, students. Now we move on to another most important leftover concept called function as first class object. Then what are the recursive functions, how they can be implemented in Python, and then the assertions. Myself, I am G. Venugopal, working as associate professor in the department of CSC and dealing the subject Python programming and data science. Now we have seen what is a function already. A function is a set of statements that perform a specific operation on the given set of data values and will return single and simple value. In other words, a function is the basic building block of any programming language that performs a specific operation, and to perform that operation it requires one or more number of data values. So a function can also be defined as a self-contained block of statements that perform a specific operation, and the set of values are passed to that function as a number of parameters, and these parameters are used for performing different types of operations that are defined inside the subfunction. The function is always defined in Python programming using the keyword def, followed by the name of the function, followed by the set of statements enclosed in the set of statements indented after the symbol colon, and if any parameter is there, that parameter is passed from the calling area and will be received inside the parenthesis after the name of the function. Now we have seen how to define a function, what is a lambda function, that is what is anonymous function, and so on. Now we have one more important concept called functions as first class objects. See, what is an object? Basically, an object is an object is an instance of a class. Then what is a class available? So a class is a collection of data members and a set of methods that operate on those data members. So a class will always combine the data values and the set of operations that can be performed on those data values. And when we create a variable of that class type, like a structure, the class looks like a structure, but in a structure there will not be any functions included within the braces, whereas in a class the members are private and the functions that operate on those data members is defined within the same braces. That means the group. So that group is called as a class, and of that class type, if you create a variable, then we call it as an object. So an object is an instance of a class. The functions in Python programming are treated as objects so that you can perform different kinds of operations. Let us see what is that. First class objects in a language are handled uniformly throughout. They may be stored in data structures. That means you can store a function as a value inside the list or tuple or dictionary. Similarly, the function name can be passed as an argument. You can pass the name of a function as an argument to another function. And in this case, we have done this particular concept in our C programming. Here, the name of a function can be passed as an argument to another function, but instead of specifying the name of the function, we will be specifying the name of the pointer that points to that function. So using the pointer to function concept, we can pass the arguments to any function. The name of the function can be passed as a parameter, and also the functions can be used in control structures. We can use the functions in the control structures. Then a programming language is said to support first class functions if it treats functions as first class objects. Python supports the concept of first class functions. The properties, if you see, then you can get more idea. So the first property is it is an instance of an object type. As I told you, the class type, if you create a variable of a particular structure type or class type, we call that as an object. So that object is an instance of a class. Next, functions can be stored as a variable. We can use the functions as a variable to pass as a parameter to subfunction. Then pass first class function as an argument of some other functions. We can pass the name of a function. For example, f1 is the name of a function. You can pass this f1 as a parameter to another function, say add. While executing the add function, we can specify one of the parameters as the name of that function itself. Next, return functions from other functions. This is also possible. We can return a function whose result is returned as another function. So one function can be returned as a result by another function, and store functions in lists. Just now we have seen that we can store the functions as values in the data structures. So like lists, sets or some other data structures can hold a function as a value. Actually, the list or set or dictionary or tuple can hold only the values, that can be a string or numeric values or logical values, like that. But in some situations, if the function is created as a first class object, then you can store the name of the function as one of the values in the list. Thereby that function can be called for execution at any point of time as we desire. Then continuation, Python functions are first class objects. Functions as first class object means that the functions can be passed around into lists and used as arguments for other functions. We can use a function as an argument for other function. Functions in Python can be used as an object. In Python, a function can be assigned as a variable. A function can be assigned to a variable. To assign it as a variable, the function will not be called, so parenthesis will not be there. That means you can write the name of the variable like this, and if the name of the function is f1, we can just write f1. Here it is actually considered as a pointer to function concept in C language. Here f1 is also identified as a, thereby you can call that f1 function with the name of a itself by passing the required set of parameters, either a of or f1 of. Both are equal because we have created a synonym for the function f1. Let's see an example. Program to illustrate the functions can be treated as objects. Here one simple function has been defined with the name display. Define the function display with text as parameter. Then the function does only one simple operation called the uppercase converted. The text available in the variable text is converted to uppercase, and that value is returned by this display function. So let us see how does it execute. Print display of hello. So here display is the function that is called with the value hello. Now when this function is called for execution, this hello will be received by the variable text, and then the text dot upper will simply execute that. So what will happen? Hello is converted to uppercase. So here hello is the first example. Now in the second case, look at this, x is equal to display. That means display is the name of the function that is assigned to a variable. In general, actually what we do here, display is the name of the function that is assigned to x. It is not a constant actually. This display is assigned to x. Then you can call that x with another name. So x of hello will print hello in uppercase. So what is x actually? X is nothing but display, and that display is internally called for execution with the parameter sent as hello. Then that hello is converted to uppercase and then is printed as hello in uppercase. Then let's go for the second example. Here one more example has been defined called cube of x. X is the name of the receiving parameter which will receive the value sent by the calling area, and if that is successfully executed, return statement will return the cube of that x. Suppose if x is 2, then the result will be returned by this function is 8. Now let us say result is equal to cube of 5. So what will happen here? The value 5 is passed to x, which in turn will calculate the cube of that 5 and will return to the variable result. Nothing is special about this particular statement. Here what is happening? Result is a normal variable which receives the value returned by the cube function. But the next statement, if you see, the result is printed properly. There is no doubt about it. But next, we are creating another variable called myCube. MyCube is the name of a variable which also acts like the function cube. So here the comment entry specifies that the myCube is same as the cube method. Method means function. So cube function can also be accessed using my_cube. Then again result is equal to my_cube of 5. So what is myCube? It is also equal to cube function. So instead of using the cube function name, we are using another name called myCube of 5. So 5 is passed to this. Then here also we get the result as 125. So in the both cases the results are 125 and 125 respectively. Then the third example, let us create two separate functions. First, to find the square of the given value which returns x into x, where x is the parameter. Similarly, the second function def cube of x colon, here return x into x into x. That means the cube of x is returned. Then create a dictionary of functions. Here we are trying to create a dictionary of functions. As we have seen just now that a function can be a value inside a list or a dictionary or a tuple or a set. So here in this simple example we are trying to set the name of the function as a value inside the dictionary. So let us see. Square is the key associated with the value square, where actually this square is the name of a function. Similarly, cube is the index or key associated with the function name cube. Now square is the key which identifies the function square, cube is the key that identifies the function cube. So and this is a dictionary which is identified by FUNCS, functions. Then I am considering one simple example, x is equal to 2. For fun, this is a variable in iterable. So what is this? For fun in sorted functions. So what is meant by sorted functions? The keys in the functions dictionary are arranged in an order, but actually the functions, the names of the functions in the functions dictionary has been defined like square first and cube next, that is in descending order. Now when we execute this first statement, the functions list in the dictionary will be rearranged such that cube becomes the starting value and the second value becomes, the key value pair is the square. So as per this newly sorted list, cube is called for execution. Look at this, fun, FUNCS of fun of x. So what is fun? Fun is the cube. So cube comma functions of cube. What is the cube? The function name of x. So if this statement is executed, functions of cube is nothing but the cube function. So here the functions of cube, nothing but cube function is called for execution with the value 2. So in this case the result we get for the first iteration as cube comma 8. Next square. The second time when it is executed, the square function is called for execution, because what happened, the sorted first value cube has been extracted, after that the key square will be extracted into fun, and that fun, the functions of that fun is called for execution with the value 2. In this case we get the value as the square of 2 as 4. So let us see the output. So cube is equal to 8, square equal to 4. So as per the values, the keys present in the dictionary, the functions are executed with sorted nature. Then fourth example, functions can be passed as arguments of another functions. Here one function is defined as cube, which returns the cube of given parameter. Another function is defined like myMap, followed by method is a variable that receives the name of the function as parameter, and argument list is receiving, it is a list that receives the values sent by the calling area. Then result is equal to list. So what is this list? Actually the list is an empty list created. List of will create an empty list in result. So result is a list consisting of no elements. Then the for loop is executed for every data item in the argument list, and result dot method of append of method of item. So what will happen here? Let us see. Before that, let us execute this statement first. My list is a variable that is called for execution. So that is assigned with the result returned by the myMap. myMap return, whatever the value returned by myMap will be added to this mylist as a new data item. And here to this myMap function, we are passing the parameter cube along with the list of values. Here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That means for every value of this argument list, the cube function is called for execution, and once that execution is completed through this loop, the values, the cubes of every element is stored or added or appended to the result list. Finally, that list is printed here. So what will happen? Let us see. The method function, the method is the variable that will receive the name of the function as cube, and this argument list will receive the values as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So 8 values have been received successfully. Then result is a list created emptily. After that, for item in argument list, that means for every value of the argument list extracted into item, execute this statement. So what is given inside the parenthesis? Method of item. What is method, ma? Method is nothing but the name of the function called cube. So in place of method we can write cube internally for our understandability. Cube of item. So what is the first item in this list? It is 1. So cube of 1 is calculated, and that result, whatever is returned by the return statement, is appended to this result. Let us say the list is created like this. There are how many elements? 8 elements available. Let me consider 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Now this is identified by the name. Let us say result. In this result, the first data item is being added. So what is the first data item? Cube of 1. So it is 1. Now when this loop is executed, this statement is completed, the next item, that is 2, is extracted into the variable item, and cube of 2 is calculated, which will return 8 as the result into this result list. After that, the third value 3 is extracted. Method of 3, that means cube of 3 will calculate 27 as cube of 3, and then the result is appended to the result list. Similarly, the next one 64, next 125 and so on. For all the values, the cubes are calculated. See the output: 1, 8, 27, 64, 125, 216, 343 and 512 is the cube of 8. Okay, then the last one, return one function from another function. We can return a function from another function. Here create logger is the name of the function, in which I am defining one more function. So create logger along with a message is given here, and create this logger is having a nested function in it. That log function will just display the message received as parameter. So what is that? log message is given by whatever the value you have specified. Suppose if you gave your name, that name is displayed here, log message colon Venu. For example, if it is given as Venu, then my logger is equal to create logger is called for execution. And after executing this particular function, this definition, the return log statement is given. So what the return log statement will return? The function is returned. So that function is going to display the message. So create logger will return a message which is added or concatenated with header, hello world. Now my logger, if you call for execution, then create logger will return the log function. So my logger is also equal to create logger function. So the message, log message hello world is displayed. And then you have another concept called returning multiple values from a function. Python functions can return multiple values. These values can be stored in variables directly, unlike our C language, in which the multiple values returned by a function can be stored in the pointer variables or pointed variables. Instead, I should say like pointed variables means the name, the address of the variables is passed as call by reference to the subfunction, and in those pointer variables we can set the values. This is indirectly returning multiple values from a function. But in C programming, in Python programming, you can return multiple values. A function is not restricted to return a single variable. It can return 0, 1, 2 or more values. Basically in C programming we learned that the function is a set of statements that returns single value, but here it returns more than one value. Example, get person, there are three values assigned as variables, Bhaskar, 35 and India. Here what we are returning? The name of the person, age of the person and country. So name comma age comma country is equal to get person. Means what will happen? The name, whatever is there in this variable Bhaskar, will be returned to num. Then the value of age is returned to age. The value of country is assigned to country. And then we are trying to print all the values. Print name will print Bhaskar. Print age will print 35. Print country will print India. See the output, Bhaskar 35 India. Continuation. For returning multiple values from a function, we can return tuple, list or dictionary object as per our requirement. As per the requirement, we can return either a tuple, list or dictionary object. So first one, method 1 using tuple. Here y0 is equal to x plus 1, where x is the parameter received from the calling area. y1 is equal to x into 3. Here x is a value and that value is tripled, and then y2 is equal to y0 into, and that means a cube is calculated. Return y0, y1, y2. Now first let us say ABC is equal to function of 3 is passed. So what is the first value in A? So the value A is equal to value y0. So what is y0? This 3 is received by x. So x plus 1 means 3 plus 1, which will calculate it to 4. So y0 is equal to 4. Then 3 into 3 will calculate 9 and y1 will hold 9. Then y2 is equal to y0 cube. y0 means it is 4. 4 cube, it will be calculated as 64. And those values, y0 has 4, y1 has 9, y2 has 64. So these three values are assigned to A, B, C respectively, and the values are printed as A is equal to 4, B is equal to 9 and C is equal to 64. So you can return a tuple of values. Similarly, we can return a dictionary. So here D is equal to dict. An empty dictionary is created inside the function fun. Then D of str, the name of the string is Bhaskar. D of x is equal to 20. Return D. So what is returned here? D means it's not a single variable, it is a dictionary. So the dictionary is written to D. D is equal to fun, means that function is executed, the dictionary is written, and when we try to print them, str colon Bhaskar x colon 20 will be printed. Of course, they are in randomized order. Then next one, using a dictionary, second example, y0 is equal to x plus 1, y1 is equal to x into 3, y2 is equal to y0 cube. So now return y0, y0 is the identifier for the key and y0 is the value, y1 is the key, y1 is the value, y2 is the key, y2 is the value. So what are calculated here? If x is 3, 3 is received by this x, 3 plus 1 it will become 4, 3 into 3 it will become 9, y0 into cube, that means 4 cube it will become 64. So finally A will get the dictionary of entries as y1 equal to 9, y0 equal to 4. The values are randomly, they are unordered collection of data items. The dictionary is an unordered collection of data items. Mostly they are displayed in y0, y1, y2 order itself, but here they are something differently displayed. And then using a list, definition function x, result is equal to x plus 1, means the first value of the result list is calculated as 3 plus 1, 4. So the list is created with the first element called 4. After that, what is happening? Result dot append of x cube, x into 3. So what is 3x? Here it is 3. 3 into 3 it will be stored with 9. Then the third one, result dot append of x cube. X cube means 3 cube, it is 27. So 3 values are added to the list and that list is returned to A. Finally the values are displayed as 4, 9, 27. Then formal and actual arguments. This is about your functions as first class objects and returning multiple values. So what is formal and actual argument? We know this very well. Just a simple comparison I would like to show here. An actual parameter are the arguments that are passed in a function call, are called actual arguments. The formal arguments are the parameters in a function declaration or function definition. Actual parameters are the parameters which specify when to call the function or procedure. Formal parameters is a parameter which specify when we define the function. So actually speaking, actual parameter can be a value, a constant, or the value of a variable, or the result of expression passed to the subfunction. The formal argument is a variable that receives that value. And actual parameters are passed by the calling area, and formal parameters are in the called function. Then coming to the recursive functions. A function calling itself is known as recursion and the function is called as recursive function. Syntax, definition of the function followed by with indentation the recursive, with recursive call the set of statements are defined and then the function is called for execution. As we have seen in C programming, similarly the recursion is implemented in Python, but we have to give indentation to the function. Advantages, the main advantage of this function recursion is a complicated function can be split down into smaller subproblems utilizing recursion. Sequence creation is simpler through recursion than utilizing any nested iteration. If I use nested iteration, it takes a lot of time to complete those iterations and the result will be, of course, the result may be clear, but it is very difficult to understand the loops. Then recursive functions render code look very simple and effective, but there are some disadvantages. A lot of memory and time is taken through recursive calls, which makes it expensive for use. But the main advantage of recursion is to implement heavy function or heavy loop based function using simple coding system. Recursion functions are challenging to debug. If there exists any error, then finding and replacing that error takes some time. Then program to print the factorial of a number recursively. See this example, n equal to 1. If n equal to 1, return that n. Else return n into recursive factorial of n minus 1. This is the same concept we have seen in C programming. First we receive, enter a number. Let us say I have entered minus 5. So what will happen? Invalid input, please enter a positive number, we get as the output. Then print next one, if num equal to 0. If it is 0, the factorial value of 0 is 1 only. Otherwise, if the user has entered any value other than 0 and less than 0, let us say 3 has been entered, the factorial of a number 3 is equal to that recursion. So what will happen first? 3 equal to 1, false. So what is that? 3 into fact. For example, I write the name as f only. 3 minus 1. So what will happen? 2. This 3 is pushed onto a simple stack. Before evaluation, this function has to be executed. So in this case, 2 into fact of n minus 1, that is 1. Now this function has to be expanded. Until then the value of 2 is stored in the stack. Now f of 1 is given. 1 equal to 1, true. So what will happen? That n is returned. But where? Wherever this function is called for execution, in that place 1 is replaced. Now the result of this subfunction execution has been obtained. Now what we have to do? The value that is available on the top of the stack is vertical, popped out. Now that 2 is multiplied by 1. The result we get is 2. That is replaced in place of f of 3 minus 1. Then that 3 is popped out. Now the stack becomes empty. 3 into 2, 6. So the recursion. So if I enter 6, the result is 720. If I enter 3, the result is 6. Another example, Fibonacci series up to n terms. Here the number of terms is clearly given, 10 times. 10 terms have to be printed. The output is like this. Okay, the Fibonacci series, it is printed in recursion. Then we have a concept called assert statements. Already we have seen what is an exception. An exception is an error in the execution of the program during runtime. An error occurred during the execution of a program is called as an exception, and using that exception we can never modify or we can never allow the user or programmer to modify the program. Rather, we can just display the message to the user what mistake you have committed. And assert statements are very first concept to exceptions. So assertions are simply Boolean expressions that check if the condition returns true or not. If the condition returns true, nothing will happen. If the condition returns false, appropriate message is generated. If it is true, then the program does nothing and moves to the next line of code. If the condition is true, nothing will happen. Simply the statements are executed. If the condition was not successful, then the control will be shifted to some other area where we are giving some assertive message to the user. However, if it is false, the program stops and throws an error called assertion error. Let us see that. Syntax: assert of condition, comma, error message. If this condition is false, error message is generated. If it is true, the statements given after this will be executed. Here the flow chart is presented. The flow is continued to the assert condition. Here the condition is evaluated. If it is true, the loop goes through this, and if it is false, this message is displayed. Then let us see an example here. The following example demonstrates a simple assert statement. X is equal to 10. First we verify whether 10 is greater than 0 or not. That is assertion. X greater than 0. Condition true or false? It is purely true. So nothing will happen. It is going to display X is a positive number. Next, in the second example, the accept statement can optionally include an error message string which gets displayed along with the assertion error. See the example. Consider the following accept statement with the error message x is equal to 0. Assert, check or verify whether x is greater than 0 or not. 0 greater than 0 is false. When the condition becomes false, this statement is displayed and it is not at all considered as a valid statement. So only positive numbers are allowed is the output we get along with assertion error. So above x is equal to 0, so the assertion error x greater than 0 becomes false, and so it will raise the assertion error with the specified message. Only positive numbers are allowed. It does not execute print statement. So whatever the print statement given over here will not be executed, just only the assertion message is displayed. So continuation, another example, def square of x. If x is greater than or equal to 0, only positive numbers are allowed. If this condition is true, return statement will work. If it is less than 0, only positive numbers are allowed. See the output. Square of 2 returns 4, there is no problem. 2 greater than 0, condition true, simply return statement executed. Minus 2 when we pass, minus 2 greater than 0 is false, so raise an error, assertion error. So what is that assertion error? Only positive numbers are allowed. So along with the type of the error. So above, square of 2 will return 4, whereas square of minus 2 will raise the assertion error because passed minus 2. Assertion error is also a built-in exception that can be handled using try except construct as shown below. Here, def square of x colon assert x greater than 0, the same example we have written. Try for the successful execution of the square of minus 2. So what will happen? What will happen here? Minus 2 greater than or equal to 0 is false. So what will happen? Only positive numbers are allowed. Is the message printed along this message? So the output only positive numbers are allowed. Above, calling minus 2 will raise an assertion error which will be handled by the except block. Except block has assertion error as message. So what is the message? This is the message to be displayed. Thus, the accept statement should generally be used to prevent possible errors and specify appropriate error messages. Okay. Then we have a concept called raising an exception. Means what? We can forcibly raise an exception. This exception can be a predefined exception or user defined exception. Now let us see the raise statement. The raise statement allows the programmer to force a specified exception to occur. When we want to code for limitation of certain condition, then we can raise an exception. An exception can be raised when we want to code for a limitation of certain condition. Example, raise name error hi there. So what will happen? That hi there is the message displayed along with the error name error. So this raise statement is generally used with user defined error messages. Let us see that concept also. Some examples I am providing here with built-in exceptions. Begin is the statement to display first. The first number is received and is also received into x and y along with typecasting. Let us say the first value entered is 93 and the second value I have entered is 0. Then what will happen? 93 by 0 is undefined. So what will happen? Except, try for execution of this statement. If any one of the values except especially y is equal to 0, 0 division error is raised by the except block, and then second number cannot be 0 is the output we get. So 65 is entered as value, first number, and 0 when you enter, it will be displaying the message 65. The second number cannot be 0. Another example here I am considering, and here the except block, if you closely observe, is not given with any error type. The type of error is not mentioned. That means a generic message we are going to display. Let us say that asterisk is the first value entered by the user, 20 is the second value entered by the user. Now what will happen? Asterisk divided by 20. So what will happen? Is it divisible? Asterisk cannot be converted to integer, so there is an error occurred, and the message error occurred is the output we get. So here the same example I have shown, 120 by 0 is not possible, so error occurred is the message shown. Even if you enter 20 by 20 plus, so 20 by plus is invalid, so it displays the same message, error occurred, but it doesn't indicate what error occurred, just it displays there is an error occurred. Then try with multiple exceptions. This is also possible. First one, two numbers have been received into the variables. Let us consider the first value is 25 and the second value is x. So what will happen first? 25 is tried for conversion to integer. It is successful. Y, this y, the value of the variable y, that is x, is converted for tried for converting into integer, which is problem. So what will happen? This y statement is not successfully executed, so the corresponding except statement value error is generated. Numeric values are only allowed. So x if you give, it will show numeric values only allowed. Then the next one, for the second time if I enter, let us say 25 divided by, let us say the second value as 0. So we get 0 division error, second number cannot be 0. Similarly, if I enter something else other than this, then a general message called error occurred will be displayed. So first case, 145F, only numeric values are allowed. Then user defined exceptions, as an example, see this. The user defined exception must be declared before it is used in the or raised in the program. So class followed by the name of the exception, and within the parenthesis we have to indicate what is this. So class is the keyword used to create the name of the exception, and it is exception we specify. So that means that value too small error is an exception created as a class, and the code is pass. So the pass will direct the execution to the next except block. Similarly, value too large is the second one, which is also an exception created as class, and pass will be redirected to the except block. And here a simple program is defined in which the program is like a game. It will receive a sequence of inputs from the user. Until the user enters the pre-designed or pre-defined value, the program will continuously run. For the first time, let us say I enter 20. So actually we have defined the value as 10 while true. That means while the execution is true, repeat. When the condition is false, it will be stopped automatically. So try I is equal to integer, 20 is entered, I less than n, is it true or false? 20 less than 10 is false. Next, 20 greater than 10 is true. So what will happen? This is true. Since it is true, raise value too large error. So the control will be shifted to the location where too large error is defined. So this will be displaying the value is too large, try again. The next time, for example, I enter 5. So what will happen now? 5 less than 10 is true. So the control will be shifted to value too small error, which displays this value is too small, try again. Now the third time if I enter 10, 10 is not less than 10, 10 is not greater than 10, so break statement will work. So the break statement will take the control out of the loop and will print success, your guess is right. See the example. First 25 is entered, next 45 is entered, both are large. 63 is entered, it is also too large. 2 is entered, it is too small. And when we enter 10, success, your guess is right. Then the last one, list comprehension. List comprehension means provide a concise way to create lists without resorting to use of map, filter and lambda functions. That means a list can be created from a portion of the existing list. There is a list available, for example, from 1 to 10. I want to extract 1 to 10 randomly stored, not in a sequence. Now I want to extract only the even numbers from that list. How can I do that? I can display the values which are divisible by 2 directly and I can print it. But here list comprehension means creating a list from an existing list that satisfy a given condition. Whatever the condition we gave, if that condition is satisfied, the corresponding value is stored in the list. The list comprehension offers a shorter syntax when you want to create a new list based on the values of an existing list. So a list comprehension consists of brackets containing expression which is executed for each element along with the for loop to iterate over each element. The syntax: new list is equal to expression element for element in. Here the expression, on that element you can perform an expression. For example, x is the element extracted from this range that satisfy this condition. You can double it, simply double it. So I want to extract even numbers from the list and double it and store in another variable. In that case this is mostly helpful. Or new list is equal to expression for item in iterable if condition is true. So the return value is a new list leaving the old list unchanged. See this example. Advantages of list comprehension: more time efficient and space efficient than loops, require fewer lines of code, transforms iterative statements into a formula. So look at this simple example. X is a list I want to create for P in range of 10. So what is that range? 0 to 9. For every value in this range, the value is extracted into P, and for that P, the doubling process is done. 0 into 0. That is, the square of every number is calculated and is stored in X. So 0 square, 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square and so on. Similarly, getting square of even numbers from 1 to 10. Here what I am doing, from 1 to 10 the numbers are generated and whichever the value is even, that is the second value 2 percentile 2 equal to 0, true, so that n is found with square and then that value is stored in squares. And finally the result is, from 1 to 10 we have 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10 as the even numbers. Those are squared. Then another example. So here a simple example is taken. Fruits is the name of the list containing the values apple, banana, cherry, kiwi and mango. Now we have defined a loop. New list is given. It's a new list created. If a in x colon new list dot append of x. This is without list comprehension. Wherever a is found in every fruit, if the first fruit has a as one of the letters, in operator is given, that means membership operator. If a is a member of this string, then append that string to new list. Similarly, banana, a is a member of this banana, so it is appended. Since cherry, kiwi doesn't have a as an alphabet in them, they are not included, and mango has a as one of the alphabets, that is appended to the new list. So here the output is apple, banana and mango. This is without comprehension. But with the list comprehension, like let us say all these statements have been simply removed, simply replaced with new list is equal to x for x in fruits if a in x. For every x in fruits, so apple is extracted first, a is a member of x, so it is added to new list. Banana is a having A as one of its data members or members, then X is added. Similarly, cherry, kiwi are not added, mango is added. So the output is apple, banana and mango. So that is the end of the extra concepts that are left over in the first unit and the second unit. Hope that you could understand what is meant by every concept, and this is more helpful for us to create the list or something data structures to work with. Thank you. We can meet later.